Hello friends, and welcome to my intro to knitting video. This is just random information that you need to know about knitting and tools that you can obtain to knit. And of course, you expect to see a needle, but there's a lot more to it. So that's what we're going to go through on this episode, right? So what do we need to knit? We basically absolutely need needles and some sort of thread, fabric, yarn, something stringy. Have you heard of plarn? So here we go. We absolutely need needles. We absolutely need yarn. Everything else helps, but you can do with that, right? So let's start with the needles. These are called straight needles because, as you can see, they're straight. Here we have the size of the needle is a 5 millimeter and a US 8. So there is a US system and there's a Europe system and there's the metric system, right? So this is a 5 millimeter US 8. And is this many inches? I would say that's like 14 inches, but it can be longer. It can be much longer. For example, this one is a US 13. I don't know the millimeters in this one, but I have handy dandy tool that tells me, right? So if it's a 13, it's 9 millimeters. So there it is. This is a 9 millimeters. So this tool tells you the sizes of the needles because sometimes they're not marked. For example, this is a round needle. This is a straight and this is a round. But this is not marked. So how do I know what size? I try it here. Must be this one, right? Is that what I need for my project? Besides round needles and straight needles, you can also have, for small projects and knitting things in the round, double pointed needles. So this is a double pointed needle. I would say this is a 9 or an 8, 5 millimeter. So it's the same as this, right? Same exact size. But notice how this has two ends. Because when you're knitting with this, you can knit from this side or you can knit from this side, right? And it allows more flexibility. I do not like these. This is the easiest, fastest. It also helps distribute the weight if you're making something big like a sweater or a blanket, because on these you have all the stitches in one or in the other. Because remember, we're going to put the stitches from this needle into its partner, right? And that's what we're going to do with knitting. So if you have 50 stitches here, you have 0 here. But here you can just like move them around, kind of. All of this will make sense later. So we have different needles. We have different yarns, of course. And they come marked. And I will add a picture here of how they are marked, because I only have this one example. So the tag of the yarn usually tells you the material. This one also only says yarns, but I'm pretty sure this is acrylic. It tells you the weight, the length, the size, and how to take care of it, right? Over here you can find like the colors, and sometimes you have to keep track of these if you're going to repeat them, because this pumpkin, like for me it's just orange, but it's pumpkin, right? There could be many different oranges, and then you get a different orange and like your project is ruined because this Halloween and this is more like the fall, right? So it's important to know exactly what color, like what they're called, and it's really fun what they like to tag the colors. So this fiber is acrylic and I have a lot of it because people have been giving it to me since pandemic and I'm still trying to get rid of it. It's not good for the environment. That's why it's cheap and everywhere. So these two are different sizes. I hope you can see how one is thinner than the other. Here I have an even thicker one. So as the size of the yarn increases, the size of the needle should also increase. Those are your basics. You need yarn and you need needles for sure. Now, there's a bunch of other things that make your life significantly easier, and some of them you do need. For example, and if you get a kit from me, you have these scissors. I like these because, you know, they're so small and portable. You need scissors. You need a measuring tape so you can see how many inches of your project you have so far, etc. This is a counter. Yours may not look like this, but it's good to keep track of how many stitches or how many rows. So we're going to count the rows with this. You're going to get a row counter. I'm not sure if it's going to look like that. Another thing that comes in the kit is a tapestry needle, which we're going to use to weave in the ends or seam the seams at the end of the project, depending on which project. It will have a yarn, a needle top, right? So this goes on top of the needle. These are not this size. This go by size. This is too small for this needle. But if your stitches are here, you want to protect them when you put them away. Otherwise, it would fall off the needle and it will unravel. And so will your life. So you do not want that to happen. You want to keep your top on your needles. Okay. The last thing I'm also going to send you is stitch markers. And it's hard to explain how these work without having a project, but we are also going to need these, and it will make more sense later, I promise. But if you get a kit from me, you should have all of these to begin with the lessons, and then when you may have a couple extra things that came with your particular project, so those will go over with your project, right? But for the general package, this is what it should come with. Scissors. Okay, there are 4 basic skills that you need: cast on, knit stitch, purl stitch, bind off. And those are going to be 4 separate videos, right? So for now, you should have all of your tools out and continue to the video that will be to cast on. So you can take your needles out of here, and that's all you're gonna need so far. You can put all of these things away. You only need your needles and your yarn.